Ask Me Anything. Let's see if it gets picked up by LinkedIn or YouTube as being live. Let's see. Yep, live on YouTube. How about you guys? Yep, live on LinkedIn. Great. It's a great day to be functioning. I'm still a little bit sick. I tend to get colds that go away fast, but have coughs that linger. So, guess what? But we are live, and this is Office Hours Ask Me Anything. So, feel free to put any questions into the YouTube chat or the LinkedIn chat. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. We do have an anonymous question today that I'll be starting with once I talk briefly about a post I put up today. Side note, hey, I got a new webcam, so I should look a little bit better. And let's see. Okay, thank you. Okay, so hi, hello, thank you to the people pressing like. Hello, this is Ask Me Anything in Office Hours. So anything in the world of UX or CX or your careers, problems at work, I take all the questions. If you have an anonymous question where you don't want people to see that you are asking a question because in YouTube or LinkedIn, we might see your name. You can use the anonymous question link, which will get emailed to me. So feel free to use that. Let me check. I'll be checking different chat rooms at different times. I don't have a consolidated chat room yet. And someone is saying, I'm staring at the screen and waiting for something to happen. I started. Thank you. So I posted something today for those of you who follow me on LinkedIn. Of course, please do. I wanted to remind everybody that both MVPs and design sprints were invented for startups. And I know that because people are so in love with startups and startup culture that they've brought that into a lot of non startup companies, even Fortune 500s, Fortune 100s. And I find a lot of these companies like to say things like, well, we think like a startup or we act like a startup. I've had a startup, I've worked at startups. No, you don't. Not even close. I don't know why companies say this. I guess they think it sounds cool around the snooker table, but you're not. But more importantly, these were things that were invented for startups, and startups fail, depending upon whose statistics you believe, 70 something to 90 something percent of the time. So I don't know why any of us would really want to be taking too much of a page from startups. They're not getting it right for the most part. So why are we emulating them? And of course, design sprints and MVPs are usually not the best choice for any company that has a product manager, a UX worker. There's more on that if you, NNG, the Nielsen Norman Group, put out a video about why MVPs and stuff are wrong. So I won't go into that today. We can go into that another day. You can read my book. So I want to jump in with an anonymous question that we got ahead of time. So if you have a question, please do ask it. I am monitoring both the YouTube chat room and the LinkedIn chat room, where we've got between the two of them about 10 people watching. So here's the question that came in. What is your opinion about heuristic evaluation? When should it be done? How should it be done for mobile apps? Is it different than an expert review? Do you have any tips for heuristic evaluation or expert review? Thank you, Debbie. Winky face. Okay, so I don't know who that's from, but thank you, mysterious person, wherever you are. I'm assuming with winky face, maybe we know each other, but you could be anybody. So, what's my opinion? So, first of all, by definition, expert review is anytime a UX expert is looking at an existing interface. So that could be your desktop version, that could be your mobile version, it could be your Tesla car dashboard, it could be whatever it is, your watch. Anytime that an expert is reviewing an interface and giving their expert opinions on it, based on usually UX best practices. Now, what is sometimes done is sometimes one expert looks at it and writes up their report. Sometimes we get multiple experts, 2, 3, 4 experts to each give their opinions separately, and someone consolidates their report. Now, for a heuristic evaluation is just a flavor of an expert review. So it's just a type of expert review. So there's nothing wrong with it, but heuristic evaluation usually means that you're using most or all of the 10 heuristics that you'll find on nngroup.com from Nielsen Norman Group. So totally Googleable. And those lay out some of the things that people should be looking for in their review, like things like error messaging or navigation or clarity of communication, things that many of us know are best practices, but they give us nice categories in which we can put our reviews and say, okay, this was good, this was bad, this is high severity, low severity. So in general, I would say it can be great to bring in an expert review, especially if there's disagreement at a company about the existing interface. If people really aren't listening to customers or users, and there's a false sense of this is great and we're building the right thing, it can sometimes be a good idea to find an outside expert. Because remember, if they believed the UX people working at your company, you wouldn't have these problems. So you typically have to find an outside expert, very often a consultant or from an agency, and those people will say, hey, look, we don't have a horse in the race. We don't work here. We don't have to kiss your butt. We're just going to use best practices, whether it's best practices or UX laws or Gestalt or accessibility or heuristics, whatever it is. We're going to be looking at this rainbow spectrum of things, and we're going to write you a report on what we think is going right and what we think is going wrong here and where some of the dangers are. So this was, let's see, Larry had asked me to change my headline to what I'm writing about. So let's do that. I'm talking about expert reviews and heuristics. And boom. Okay, should say that now. Yes? Maybe. Okay. I do these. Sometimes I'll call it a UX optimization report. Just ends up being a little bit softer for some of the people receiving it. Expert review can sound a little bit high and mighty accidentally, and heuristic evaluation can be a word nobody can pronounce, and they don't know what that is. So I just call it a UX optimization report, basically saying, where am I seeing things going right? Where do I see things going wrong? Where are some opportunities for optimization? So again, just trying to use words that are a little bit more familiar to people when I get called in to do this, but technically there's nothing wrong with calling it an expert review or heuristic evaluation or what you like. The way that I do it is I do a lot of screenshots of whatever I'm looking at. Those could be desktop screenshots. They could be mobile screenshots. I used to bring them into a Word document, but I found that people seem to like it better in PowerPoint. So I'm in PowerPoint. And I'm happy with my format. So I do I title the slide something relevant, or maybe where I took this screenshot. I show part or all of a screen. And then next to it, I do kind of like a 50-50. Then I do a bulleted list of some key things that I see as concerns there and what I believe their severity is. So they could be using Nielsen Norman heuristics, but again, because that's sometimes something people don't have a frame of reference for. Like if I say, visibility of system status, people will be like, and what is that? So rather than trying to explain a whole new paradigm to people, which again, you can do, I'm not saying that's bad or wrong. I'm just saying I've gone the path of least resistance, and I do these audits or reports just using a lot more plain language rather than any industry language. And obviously, there are a lot of things that are plain language, flexibility of use. That sounds pretty plain, but what does that really mean? And will it make sense to the person reading the report? So again, some of the reason why I don't often do the heuristic version is just because I feel like now that's 10 things I have to explain to people. They have to remember what those mean. And as I go through the report, I'm going to go, well, this one was recognition rather than recall. And they have to be like, what was that? So I tend to use just more plain language and say, here's an area where you're really asking people to remember or understand a lot of things in this space. Like when I see too many icons used, and I say, well, you've gone from icons to hieroglyphics. There's now a language people have to learn, and that's going to be difficult for people to be able to do, even people with good memories. And let's also remember the people with poor memories. Um, so let's look back at the question and see if we've attacked some of the angles of it. When should it be done? I think there's no bad time to do an expert review or heuristic evaluation, but if you are bringing in an outside expert, then that's money somebody's going to have to approve. If you are doing it internally from some of your more senior UX workers or CX leadership or management, then maybe it comes from those people and we're not paying them extra. But I feel like it's a really good thing to do at a start of a project, and especially where there's disagreement about the state of the current interface. Where if I'm saying, wow, this is really a mess, there's really a lot to fix and change, and stakeholders or people focused on the business side are going, no, this is pretty good, we're happy with it, customers love it, or something like that, I might say, well, let's audit it. Let's audit it and take a closer look at it. And sometimes I can use that also to lead to some research. Sometimes if I see some problems, I'll say, hey, let's see if we can validate that these are problems. It's my expert opinion that these look like they would be problems, but that is hypothetically a guess or an assumption or an opinion until we validate that with research. So to me, it doesn't replace UX or user or customer research. It's something that maybe helps inspire it. Like, whoa, our internal or external expert said, there's the 4 horsemen of bad UX, my trademark, have shown up and have made our interface create the apocalypse. We should really take a closer look at what's going right or wrong. So that would be one thing that I do. Is again, check the question. How would it be done for mobile apps? I really do it no differently for any particular interface. I screenshot stuff and I write a lot of commentary with it. I'm kind of lucky that on Android we have the ability to do a screenshot or do a screenshot and then press a little button and it will scroll down and screenshot again and scroll down and screenshot again. So if I want, I can say, this is your mobile page. It's 17 feet long. Let's talk about that. So I would say I don't do it particularly differently for mobile apps. Do I have any tips for heuristic evaluation or expert review? I don't think I have any tips other than make sure whatever report you give people is easily understood by the people receiving it. So again, if they're not familiar with anything you're referencing, if you're referencing any UX best practices, any UX laws, any Gestalt principles, any Nielsen-Norman heuristics, make sure they know what those are. You might have to explain them, which again, cognitive load, which you would do a heuristic evaluation on. So again, I just try to use plain language wherever possible. I do take the 10 heuristics into consideration. I take accessibility into consideration. I take consistency into consideration. I look at search and search results. I look at navigation. I try to look at a lot of things. I look a little bit at copy or content choices. I will walk through processes. I will try to. So here's a quick story, and then I'll wrap it up. But while I'm telling the story, since we have like a minute delay, if you guys have any questions, it's office hours. Ask me anything. Please ask your questions in YouTube or in LinkedIn. And when I'm done with this, I will get to your questions, since this is the only question I have so far. The story was a friend of mine was putting in a proposal to work with a very famous company, and she was trying to bring me in on that. And she was like, "Hey, why don't you take a quick look at some of their pages and see if you can find some, low-hanging fruit that they should consider fixing to try to show them, how badly they need us." So you could say that was like a mini free expert review where she just wanted me to see if I could find 2 or 3 things. I said, okay. So I started moving through some of their pages, and I immediately found a lot of information architecture problems, a lot of page layout inconsistency. I said it looked like different teams had redone different pages at different times, but no one had ever made all the pages look the same. And then I decided to put something in my cart and try to check out. And when I got to the checkout, I found that someone had put the credit card payment in an iframe, and my browser was blocking it as like suspicious, weird third-party iframe thing. So I got a giant white blank space where the credit card form should have been, which meant I couldn't buy this. Now, which heuristic is that? I mean, I'll go back and look at my list of heuristics. Visibility of system status, not totally. Match between system and the real world, not totally. User control and freedom, not really. Consistency and standards, error prevention, sure. Recognition rather than recall, flexibility and efficiency of use, aesthetic and minimalist design, help users recognize, diagnose, recover from errors, and help in documentation. I'm not sure that really fits into any of the heuristics, but obviously it's still important to point out that somebody obviously did not QA or test this with the ad blocker that I was using or the browser that I was using, which blocked this. So, I just kind of do my own thing, and I take the best of everything, and I work that into my expert reviews. So I will consider that question answered. If anyone wants to ask a follow-up question, even if this wasn't originally your question, I'm happy to take a follow-up question. But that would mean that this is, excuse me, I'm still a little bit sick, as you guys heard. My cold is gone, but I unfortunately still have a little bit of a cough, so I am trying to live on throat lozenge. So this is office hours. Ask me anything, and you guys are welcome to ask any questions that you have. I usually hang around until all questions are asked. So do you have any questions about CX or UX? Or, I mean, you can ask my opinion on anything. It's my opinion and it's free. So you can say, I read this article. What do you think of this? Or I heard that we should do this. What do you think of this? So all questions are welcome during office hours. You can ask me about your particular job or career issues. If you would like to ask a question anonymously, please use the link below, deltacx.link/AMA for Ask Me Anything. That question will come through to me anonymously. Versus if you ask it in LinkedIn or YouTube, people might see who you are, and that would be less cool if you want to complain about your job. But we do get lots of questions of people complaining about their job. They just come through anonymously through the anonymous link. A question I happened to get earlier, I'm just going to fill some time while you guys ask questions. Question I got earlier from a friend was, should my resume or CV have all of my references listed on it? Now, in America, we've kind of changed that. Now, I'm an American, no longer living in America, but the American way of doing that is typically we no longer list the people on there. It just makes the resume longer, and there's no reason to expose all of those people and their contact information, because very often companies don't even call references that much, because let's face it, references, in my opinion, are kind of garbagey. Do you think I'm going to give you someone to talk to who didn't completely love me? So you're going to get a skewed opinion of me. I'm sure I have good qualities and bad qualities, but chances are the person I give you as the reference is going to say I'm super. So many people are starting to realize it's kind of like, hey, ask my mom how great I am. So in America, generally on a resume or CV, we just write one line at the very end that says, references available upon request. And that way, if someone does want to talk to one of my references, they can ask me, and they do. And then I can say, okay, please talk to this person and this person. And of course, I've spoken with those people, and they know to expect a call or an email, whatever they've said. So that's one way to do it. Cutting down on a lot of space in the CV or resume, and not exposing those people. No reason to put all their contact information out there. And let's face it, their contact information changes. By the time you send your CV out, they could be working at another job. So that information might not even be updated anymore. So best to just get that request when it comes in, find out the most current contact information for your former managers or coworkers, and then supply that. Excuse me. Hello. So again, this is Office Hours Ask Me Anything. These are always archived on YouTube later on. If people want to watch them, please do subscribe on YouTube. It's the Delta CX channel, which you can now find at deltacx.tv. I have that redirecting to the YouTube channel. And when I go live, YouTube will definitely tell you, but when I go live, LinkedIn doesn't necessarily tell you. So I do request that you please subscribe to YouTube. Nothing is monetized. You're not going to get ads. It's not like that at all. It's really just to make sure you know when I'm live. And I'm doing a live stream nearly every weekday this month. So it's you're going to want to know. And other than that, the only good way to know is to go to deltacx.com, go to events, go to live stream podcasts, and check out the Google Calendar of all the stuff we have coming up. Lots of live stuff coming up. So again, I have to apologize. It looks like that YouTube is also much closer to live with less delay. And LinkedIn looks almost 2 minutes behind where I am. So people who are watching on LinkedIn, you are a good 2 minutes or so behind where I am live. People who are watching on YouTube, you are probably about 20 seconds behind or maybe less. So another reason why I recommend watching through YouTube when you can. It's a little bit more synchronous. So again, Office Hours Ask Me Anything. If you guys want to introduce yourselves, if you have any questions, please ask them. I'm not seeing any other questions right now. And again, thanks to the anonymous person who asked the first one. I do hang around a little bit as it is office hours in case someone has a question. So I'm going to hang around, but I don't really have any other answers to fill the time with right now. So you guys tell me about you. How's the month of March going? Everybody staying healthy? A question is coming in. Let's see. How to deal with an interview question about a UX specific case study on the spot, for example, a solution to a specific problem. This is an excellent question, and we could really talk a long time about this. So, my impression of the person asking the question, and thank you for the question, is you're in a job interview and they're trying to figure out a way to test you. So, they ask you to either whiteboard something or sketch something or talk about something, and they want to give you a real problem that the company is having, and they want to see some of what you would imagine for the solution. We also have a question in LinkedIn. Igor, I see you. I will answer that after I answer this one, and this one might be a little long, but I will get to you. I always get to all questions before we close out. So this is hard because if you're in that job interview and you want that job or you need that job, it's very hard to say, you know what? That's a real company problem, and one of two things. One, I get paid to solve problems. There's no reason for me to solve your problem for you for free right now. And you can read lots of articles about the fake UX jobs out there where people pretend they have a UX job just to get people in to get fresh ideas. So number one, why should I give you free ideas that might solve your problem and then there is no job or you don't hire me and I never really get paid or anything for this? And number two, they rarely give you enough information to solve that problem. It kind of shows a misunderstanding of UX. If I'm really going to solve a problem, I would love to be doing more of the user-centered design process. Excuse me, I still have this lingering cough. I wouldn't just want to hear from somebody, hey, we have a problem, how do we solve it? Oh, well, I think we can do this. The problem is if we reduce UX down to that, we've made it look no deeper than a design sprint. You know, people say, well, we can ask these UX people or we can just get everybody in a room and sketch ideas. And I think the problem is I really want hiring managers and companies to learn that UX is deeper than that. You don't just walk up to us with a problem and we make our best guess and that's what we release to the public. Yes, that does happen at plenty of jobs, but that is not what should happen. So I would say it would be great if more people were able to say to those jobs, number one, I get paid to answer that question. I get paid to solve your specific problems. Number two, UX is not about guessing and assuming based on very little information. UX is a highly scientific process that requires that I dig much deeper into your problems before I try to solve them. So it's not really about here a problem, sketch a solution, great, let's go build that. So it's hard because I know that people who want jobs want to do these things. But remember, you can do it and it doesn't guarantee you that you get the job. It doesn't guarantee you that there is a job. And it might accidentally reinforce UX is something that people can just guess at off the cuff quickly. Hey, throw this problem at Debbie. Debbie, sketch something. What would you build? I'd rather say that's not how we do it. And me guessing is better than other people guessing, but it's still not the right way to go, and it's still not the correct process if we care about customer value. So I think you have to be ready to not get that job. Just because number one, you might not get that job, and number two, if you say the right thing, you might not get that job because they probably want someone who is more compliant. They probably want someone who says, "Oh yes, you want me to whiteboard something right now? Oh yes, yeah." And so obviously I don't always get the job because I'm certainly not the most compliant person. I don't just say yes to everything. I'm going to challenge people a little bit. I'm going to ask questions back at them. And that doesn't always work for people, and that's okay. I wouldn't want to work at a place that doesn't want me for who I am, and I'm not for everybody. My opinion is not for everybody. So that is my medium length opinion on that. If you want to ask a follow-up question, you can in the chat room, or you can send another anonymous question, as I do get those. So that is my opinion on those. I know people do them because they're hungry to get that job and hope they are impressing somebody. But I ultimately think it is I'm battling for jobs and hiring managers to stop doing that. If you can't tell if I can do UX work from my resume, from my portfolio, from interviewing me, or any combination of those, what do you think you're going to learn from giving me an off-the-cuff guessing challenge? It's just not the right thing for UX. But I'm happy to take follow-up questions from the person who asked it or from anybody else who has a follow-up question about that or design challenges. And we've got someone commenting in YouTube saying, yes, exactly. I hate it when they do that. You don't have all the necessary context to come to a proper conclusion. It's not a guessing game. UX is supposed to be based on research. Yes, I certainly agree. And then Igor had asked a question. Thank you for your patience, Igor. I hope I'm pronouncing your name okay. You wrote, curious about metrics. On what stage of the design you usually start to build to prove that design decisions are viable or need to be reconsidered or other decisions? Okay, I think I understand your question. So if we are thinking about metrics, it's important to decide on those metrics really before the project starts, because chances are there's going to be different metrics that people are trying to watch for in this project. So the project manager's looking at something, marketing's looking at something, sales is looking at something, product management is looking at something, maybe stakeholders are looking at something, and then UX has their own metrics that they might be looking for. So what metrics might I be looking for to prove that a design decision is going in the right way? For that, I usually don't use a metric, because a metric would imply that it is quantitative information. Quantitative information is usually information we got from a survey, like how many people said X or Y. But I really want to make sure that if we are trying to validate or invalidate or improve upon a design decision, that we're doing that with a qualitative approach. So I would be doing some sort of UX user usability testing to make sure that the concepts that we're considering, or the architecture we're working on, or the particular interaction designs or prototype that I have is going in the right direction, or where there's room for improvement. And I might not boil that down to metrics. Now, if I test with 5 people and I gave them a certain task and 4 of them failed the task, I have a metric. I can say 4 out of 5 people failed the test, or 80% of our 5 users had trouble with this task given the current interaction design. But in general, I don't really rely on those metrics, and it's very important to do testing before engineering builds it and before it goes out to the public. If you are talking about what metrics can we watch after it's gone out to the public, so again, assuming we've done a proper UX process and we have tested this and it did well in UX testing, and then we let engineering build it and we get it out to the public, now what should UX watch? There's a lot of different opinions on that, but it really depends on the type of business that you're in. So for example, if you're in the type of business that might be retail or e-commerce, where you just want people to get on the site, find the things they want, get them in the cart and buy them, then usually a metric like length of time on the page, you wouldn't want that to be too long, because somebody spending too long on an e-commerce page might be a symbol of doubt, might be a symbol of not understanding what they're seeing or what to do next. So not every metric is a good one, and not every metric is right for your type of business. So I can't give you a blanket statement that says these are always the UX metrics to look at. Certainly, we probably, between you and marketing and everybody else, you probably want to see, did we make money? Did we have more people signing up, or more people doing a trial, or more people buying? What did they spend? These are always metrics that somebody's going to want to count. But in order for us to be more specific about the user experience of this particular feature or project, then we've got to have metrics related specifically to that. Something that we can count or quantify that's going to be different than what it was before, because here we are making a change. Oh, I forgot to change my headline as per Larry Marine's suggestion. So let's see if I can do that. Let's see. We're talking about UX metrics. Sorry, I'm late. I'm almost done, and I'm just putting up my headline now. And again, you guys start asking your next questions or any follow-up questions as I continue to talk to Igor. And Igor, ask any follow-up question that you want to add to that. So it's important to make sure that you have a baseline before this goes live. So how many trials were we getting per month on average? How much money were we selling per week or per month on average before this, or in certain months? And that way, when this goes out, we can see, did stuff go up? Did stuff go down? What went up? What went down? And again, I typically don't use surveys. Surveys are often too flawed. People don't always answer honestly. You sometimes just get a lot of garbage from a survey. You can certainly ask them Net Promoter Score, on a scale up to 10, would you recommend us to a friend, and then why or why not? But even there, sometimes you're getting some skewed information, and somebody has to read through all of those text boxes, which you should do. But really, I would say Net Promoter Score and a lot of these metrics are ultimately, potentially, inspiration for better UX research. So if we find, hey, our Net Promoter Score looks a little low and people wrote some complaints, but, can we really be sure of what's going wrong here? Let's do some fresh UX research. Let's interview some people. Let's observe some people and see what's going wrong here. And that way we can be a little bit smarter about understanding the problem and judging how we fix it. So if I want to validate or invalidate a design decision, I want to do that during the UX process before engineering builds and releases it. If I'm looking at UX metrics after the fact, then it's important for those to be comparative. What are we comparing this to? How many more or less of something do you expect to happen because of this feature? And have we also documented the risks? Have we documented, you didn't give the UX team enough time to really do the right thing here, so we're not totally sure you're going to see the numbers you're expecting to see. We would need more time, budget, people, whatever it was, because obviously things very often get rushed out. I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions or things you want to add to that. Thanks to the people watching today in YouTube and in LinkedIn. This is Office Hours Ask Me Anything, and I'm just taking general random questions. You can also use this link if you would like to ask an anonymous questions in case it happens to be about your job, your life, your workplace, your career, and you don't want anybody to know who you are. That's totally fine. So please feel free to use that. And with that, I will change my title back to Office Hours and see if anybody has another anonymous or public question. And again, I usually hang around at least, I mean, it's been a half hour already. So if anybody has any other questions, I'll hang around a little bit more. If not, we can certainly wind down. Just a reminder that tomorrow is going to be our very first UX speed dating at 7 p.m. Italy time. Please change that for wherever time zone you're in. And we're going to have total strangers to me. They're each going to get a 4-minute UX interview, and then I hope everybody will share it out on LinkedIn, YouTube, and other social media so that lots of hiring managers can meet these people. And if they find one that they like, hopefully contact them and interview them. So we're going to be doing UX job speed dating. Thursday, we've got a live podcast with 2 special guests. We're going to be doing the science of UX and kind of the trouble we run into when UX is treated as less than scientific. Don't forget, next week we also have a pile of cool things going on. We've got a podcast Monday with the Super Jonathan Tesser on awesome versus vanity metrics, a little bit like what we were talking about today. Tuesday, of course, will be office hours. Wednesday is improv comedy live stream. So if you would like to be silly, blow off some steam, and make fun of ourselves a little bit, join us Wednesday the 11th for live comedy. And again, this is Office Hours. Ask me anything. If you have questions, please ask them. I'm just killing some time by telling you what's coming up this month in our live stream world. Thursday the 12th will be another UX speed dating. We've got more people signed up for that. And then the following week, we've got more great stuff. I'm doing a podcast or live stream almost every weekday this month, except for Fridays. Monday the 16th, we're doing a live podcast on accessibility, not to be missed. Tuesday will be office hours. Wednesday will be speed dating. And I've already booked the last week of March. March 23rd will be remote work and how agile can work remotely, which not everybody seems to believe. Tuesday, March 24th will be office hours as always, and a very special new type of podcast on Wednesday, the 25th, a podcast I'm calling Our Customer, where I'm going to bring in somebody who is not from the UX industry at all to just talk openly and randomly about what it's like to be a customer of all of our crappy products. And that's going to be friend of the show, Oz. So, who is an expert on Microsoft Excel. So bring your Excel questions. That's a lot of what's coming up for March. Like I said, join me here nearly every day, usually sometime between 6 and 7 Italy time in the evening. You can also check our calendar online. Go to Delta CX, events, live stream podcasts, and there's a Google Calendar there that you can add to your calendar and be aware of these, because LinkedIn's event system isn't very good at telling you guys when stuff is happening, so I haven't been using it as much. And again, hey, it's Udit. Udit says, how are you doing? Udit, good to see you. Friend of the show, Udit. I am well. I still have a little bit of a cough. How are you? I hope you guys are well, and I hope you're taking care of yourselves and following all the protocols right now. Thank you for the heart. I think that might have been Igor. Thank you very much. Excuse me, that's very loud, I know. Should have turned on the microphone compressor for the coughs. So again, this is Office Hours Ask Me Anything. If you have anything you want to ask or a comment you want to make or something you want to talk about or ask about, throw it in. This is a totally open time for open conversation, and all questions are welcome. No question is stupid, though I will block you if you come here just to plug your irrelevant website. There you go. So any other thoughts, comments, questions for today? Udit, you didn't say how you're doing. Now I'll never know. I'll have to private message you. I do not have coronavirus, people. I had a cold last week, and colds always, for me, turn into like a 2-week cough. So I have 0 coronavirus symptoms. So let's keep it that way, and hopefully for you guys as well. Let's see, any other, we've got questions coming in. Great, we've got 2. Hi, Debbie. What can companies do instead of design sprints in difficult domains like predictive analytics? Whoa, okay, so first of all, let's just all say I am not a specialist in predictive analytics. So I can only half answer this question. I can give you my opinion on what we should do instead of design sprints, but I am not going to be able to say, aha, in the world of predictive analytics, here's what you should do, because again, it happens to not be my specialty. So I don't want to go overboard there. But I've got a slide. Let me see if I can find it, and that way I can read you guys some of my tips on what to do instead. What to do instead. Okay, so, and this is also, I think, in my book, but it's also in some of my talks. So thing 1, what to do instead of design sprints. One thing that we can do is get the heck out of the building. Design sprints are just another insulated, everybody at the company, everybody with each other. Yeah, sometimes you bring in an outside subject matter expert, sometimes you don't, but good God, get out of the building. Have your UX team plan some interviews or some observational research with hopefully real customers and users, hopefully local to where you guys are, and bring everybody to properly observe that. Now, of course, you have to figure out where people are going to be because you don't want them to bias the research. But whether you bring people into a listening lab and have that, second room with the one-way mirror, or you're bringing people out, get the heck out of the room. Stop locking yourselves in rooms for days and sketching stuff. It's just not the best way to go. People like to imagine it leads to innovation and all that stuff. I mean, the company I look to the most for innovation is Disney Parks, and I've never heard of them doing design sprints. They're just cut above. So design sprints were invented for startups who didn't have UX people, so they had no way to figure out what they were going to build. But if you have UX, you have product, you don't need it. Here's what I wrote. Instead of scheduling another design sprint, have your UX or CX researchers find some local customers. Researcher will set up everything in accordance with how the particular study or research should be done. Planning this is not a cross-functional team event. The non-CX team must be silent observers so the study won't be skewed. Try not to make faces in response to things customers say. It's really important to be unbiased. Then you can replace assumptions and guesses. I find design sprints are often heavy on guesses and assumptions. They're not often drowning in the fantasticness of UX research or personas and customer journey maps that were done by the experts. Sometimes as part of the design sprint, the people in the room are guessing at customer journey maps, guessing at personas or scenarios. So we want to stop that. We want to make sure that the experts, your UX and CX people, are creating those documents, and again, not just based on a template, but based on having done great research with real potential, real archetypal customers. So ultimately, let's see, that was one list of things that I have about what you can do instead. Let me see if I can find my other slide on that. I'm looking at a slide deck you guys can't see. Here's my other slide on what to do instead. I like ideation workshops, and I like to format ideas like user stories. I don't like to make people sketch. I don't want everybody to vote on the one they like the most. That's not what UX does. We don't sketch a couple of ideas for a project, hang them at our desk, and ask our coworkers, to vote on which one they like the best. It's user-centered design because it is about users. So I like ideation workshops because then I can involve my cross-functional team or a bunch of people from one area. I can collect their ideas without making them draw. Some people don't like to draw. I can collect their ideas, and then I or my team can then work on the execution of those ideas. If your company does a design sprint, make sure you get those ideas. Sometimes I find companies do a design sprint, they come out with something at the end, and they run straight to product or engineering to try to get it built. It should still go through UX so that it is getting proper UX attention. I've got two more here. Let's see. And let's see what other questions are popping up. Oh no, Udit, you have a fever. Please tell me you don't have coronavirus. Oh my, or write to me privately. Now I'm worried about you. Excuse me. So two more things on my list of what we can do instead of design sprints. Well, really one. The last one is more in response to design thinking. If you are doing a team workshop like a design sprint is, or a co-design workshop, or an ideation workshop, any workshop, I pretty much demand that these must have success criteria and KPIs. We must calculate the cost of this workshop, and we must calculate the ROI of what came out of it. Because I find that when I tried to research what is the outcome, what is the measurable outcome of a design sprint, and what do they cost, and what do they produce, and why do they fail, what I find is all I could find, except for one example, was emotional outcomes. Everybody really enjoyed the workshop. We really had a good team building camaraderie. Stakeholders really felt involved. Well, this sounds like group therapy, and it's a lot of money to have spent to have not done what you set out to do, which was to solve a problem, address a challenge, look at product design, or innovate. We don't want to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a supposedly innovative workshop and come out with it going, everybody really enjoyed that. That's a waste of money. So let's start calculating these things so that we can be able to say to people, we're burning money on this and they're really not producing much or anything. So those are some of the things that I tend to suggest in lieu of design sprints. Thank you for asking. We do have another anonymous question, and then we have some not anonymous questions. So I will answer those too, even if we run a little bit late. Anonymous question. I have a background in UI design and front-end development. I'm starting in UX design and specializing in UX research. I know that UX designers must have knowledge in so many things: marketing, business, sales, psychology, interpersonal skills. Where should I focus in UX research? Okay, so it sounds like someone is thinking about making a career change. And again, I hope I'm getting this. If not, send an email. Sounds like you're making a little bit of a career change, that you've been more on the visual design side, or maybe design system, front-end development. You want to get more into UX research. Now, depending upon the place where you eventually get a job, some companies expect you to be the UX researcher and the designer. They expect you to be kind of T-shaped in those areas and do all those things. I've had a bunch of those jobs. Sometimes they expect you to be a specialist. You're only going to do the research and testing. Someone else is going to do architecture and design. I've had those jobs as well, where I'm the architecture and design person, someone else was research and testing. So what I tend to advise anybody who is either changing jobs or is looking to get into UX, if you are starting to fall in love with a certain area of UX, like the person who asked the question sounds interested in UX research, I would say start looking at UX research jobs that sound good and look for what they ask for and what they expect you to know. Then you can kind of reverse engineer that. What do I need to know in order to get a UX research job? Now, there's other ways to go as well. You could just be looking stuff up. We've got our friend of the show, Michelle Ronson, who was on last week talking about planning UX research and testing. I think she has some courses online. I think they're paid, but check her out. I think her web address is curiositytank.com. I make no money from that. I just like to plug friends of the show. She doesn't pay me for that. There's no special code that that anyone tracks what I'm doing here. So check her courses out. They're going to be some good UX research courses, as she's a good, reliable resource. But I also tell people to reverse engineer job descriptions. See what a job description expects you to be able to do. Do they expect you to have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree? Do they expect you to be able to do statistical analysis at an academic level? What do they expect from you? So when you say, where should I focus in UX research? I can tell you some general things that are good to know about, and Michelle can teach you those, about different types of research to do, and strategically, when do you do those. I saw an ad earlier today for a UX research internship, and one of the questions you had to answer on your application was like, tell me about different types of research and when you would use each one. So even an internship expects you to know things like that. So I think if you look at job listings, even for junior or mid-level UX researchers, you will see what they expect you to know, and that will be a good start for what you should be focusing on and learning. And also check in with Michelle at curiositytank.com, and she will probably be a better resource even than I am. So thanks for that anonymous question. Now let's look back at our two other questions in LinkedIn. Sorry to make you guys wait. Excuse me. I'm going to start with Ulrika, who I haven't seen in a long time. I think we met at a conference a year or two ago. Good to see you there. And your question is, how can one sell UX in 5 minutes? How would you describe what UX is and why you need it to customers and developer colleagues in 5 minutes only? Okay, well, you've put me on the spot. I don't have an answer prepared to that. What I normally say, and I should be more prepared for that, but what I normally say is that UX is the more science than art, the psychology side of designing products, services, and experiences, and that our goals include happier, more loyal customers, ease of learning and use, accessibility, to make sure this is something everybody can use, something that a lot of people forget. But that one of the key things that UX can do for a company, and ultimately for our customers and our developers and everybody else, is we are here to predict and mitigate business risk. Business hates spending money on things that people end up not wanting or not liking. Business hates burning engineers' time to be guessing at what we should build and redoing it. Business hates burning money on customer support, handling angry tweeters, having to go back and fix it later. Having to fix it later is such a huge inefficiency and money burn. So UX is here to make sure that our concepts of what we're going to build are strong concepts and are the right executions of the right ideas for our target customers. Maybe our competitors have slightly different customers. We can't just copy them. What about our customers? And we know this through a process of proper research, architecture, interaction design, and testing. And yes, we do testing before engineers write a line of code, because UX testing is the QA of UX. You wouldn't release it without your QA peeps trying it out and finding those bugs. You don't want the customer to find those bugs. Same is true for your UX. Your UX can have bugs. It could be a technically smooth experience without bugs, but it could be a crappy user experience. Those error messages you get on sites, those dead ends, those pages you couldn't find, I don't know how to pay my bill, those are UX problems. And they are just as bad, if not worse, than a technical bug. So all of that love that we would put towards engineering, we have to put it towards UX, and we have to stop chopping away and skimping at UX because we think that's lean. Nothing lean about releasing defects. Nothing lean about underutilizing our UX talent. And we think, oh, that's agile. Nothing agile about not satisfying customers. Nothing agile about not feeding back information into the system to possibly change the requirements to build something better. Nothing agile or scrummy about having people who don't really know about UX do UX so we can say it got done. We have to raise our standards from did it get done? Do we mark it off as done? Is it working software? To does it meet or exceed customers' needs? Is it built the way that is easy for them to learn and easy for them to use? I probably went just over 5 minutes. Ulrika, how's that one? It's a little disorganized, but I tried to cover all of my usual high notes. If you need this, I'll give it to you in PowerPoint form. I've got all these things in slides in one way or another. And I'm happy to share some of those slides when I know people are going to bat for UX, but I know especially with requirements and Scrum, that's where a lot of stuff falls apart because people are expecting UX to look like engineers, work like engineers, count efficiency and time like engineers, and we just don't. We are depth and quality over speed. I'm not saying engineers are shallow and low quality, but I am saying that they are mostly judged by their speed. And did it get done? Got done? Good. Check it off. Yay. Who did it? Doesn't matter. Someone on the Scrum team read a UX book. They did it. Wrong, wrong, wrong. So that would be my answer to you. Write any follow-up questions that you have, and I'll be happy to do it. Friend of the show, Tarina, says, I love that answer. Thank you. And Igor is back. Igor says, work in multiple projects can be very intimidating. How do you handle this? I think Igor is asking, and correct me if I'm wrong, what do you do when you're working at a job and they are putting you on a lot of different projects and you are trying to juggle all of these things? First of all, I'm usually pretty clear with my manager about how much is too much. And in general, I recommend that depending upon the size of the project and where it is in the scheme of the epics in the project, that a UX person not work on more than 1, 2, or 3 things at a time. I've been on one project at a time and been solely dedicated to that. Engineers love that. The Agile and Scrum people love that. They want me dedicated. I've had companies where we didn't have enough UX people. We had 45 UX people. We didn't have enough. I was on 2 projects. Sorry, my dog seems to be sniffling. Are you okay, Olivia? Now she's wagging, but she was sniffling. I hope I don't make my dog sick. Olivia, don't catch my cold. I've been on 2 projects at a time. I can juggle that pretty well depending upon how demanding each one is. Sometimes 2 projects is too much. It really depends on what they are. But also remember, every team imagines and dreams that you are embedded on them. When I did my one-day workshop at the DevOps conference in, where was I in December? Who remembers? Where was I in December? Was that Mainz? No, where was I? Nobody remembers. Okay. Well, when I was at DevOpsCon, love those guys, DevOpsCon.de. I speak at a lot of their events. I had a guy at the back of the room who worked at a very famous company, and he was like, oh, yeah, I don't want you on 2 projects. I want you only on my project. And I was like, I like that too, but sometimes there aren't enough of me, and we've got to do this thing. And he goes, yes, we had that at our company. So what we do is like UX works for, it almost sounds like a divorced family thing. He either said it was like 1 week or 2 weeks on this team, and then 1 week or 2 weeks on this team, and then 1 week or 2 weeks on this team. Again, it sounded like child of divorced parents. And I said, well, that doesn't make sense. What if one team says, whoa, we found a problem, an ambiguity. Hey, Debbie, can you help us? You're going to say, I can't talk to them? And he's like, yeah, technically you can't talk to them. That's not their week. And I was like, do not like. But he was at a very famous company that I won't name, and he thought that was a great way to go. And I don't agree. I would rather be juggling 2 at the same time and have to split my time a little bit and say, I'm going to make it to your meeting this week. I can't make it to that meeting this week, and wah. Excuse me. And then sometimes I'm on 3 projects, and again, it really depends where they are. Ulrika, I have 400 slides. I would say, please contact me privately. I don't know why we are 3rd-degree connections. We've met in real life. I think you tweeted at me at some point. Please add me here on LinkedIn and send me a message. Tell me what's going on privately, and I'll see what slides I can get you that can address what you need to talk to people about. So please add me, and because it says you're like third degree connection. That makes no sense. Let me help you out, but tell me what you need. Igor, I know that's not a perfect answer. It's really going to be up to you and how good you are at some of that multitasking and juggling and time management. It's going to be up to talking to your managers and leaders to see if you can bring in more UX people to balance things out a little bit. It's going to be up to the engineers to understand that you might be on multiple projects and you're not going to be able to give them 100% of your attention, but I try to multitask well enough that everyone feels like they get 100% of me, even though they don't. Another thing I do is I sometimes I'll go to meetings, but I'm not, and I'll say, look, I'm here, and if you need me, get my attention. But I'm kind of multitasking. I'm doing something else. I might not totally be listening. Get my attention if you need me. And I'm just setting expectations there that I'm physically in the meeting, but I forgot to put up on the thing what I'm doing. Sorry, Larry Marine, you told me to put up what I'm talking about. So we're also almost out of time today, so I will see if anybody has any last questions for today. Otherwise, please remember that I do office hours every Tuesday around this time. You can always ask an anonymous question. You can use this link week round, and I save the questions for Tuesday if you happen to send it on another day. You can always catch these. Thank you for those whoever gave applause. You can always catch these archived on the Delta CX YouTube channel. So just go to deltacx.tv and that will redirect you to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe and ring that bell so you can know when I'm live. Because they're better at telling you I'm live than LinkedIn is. And so there's a playlist there called Office Hours, and you'll find all of the old ones there. I don't really have them organized fantastically where I say what all of the topics ended up being. I'm sorry, a little bit of laziness there. In the future, I should write down what we ended up talking about and make a note of it, but also I get so in the zone, I forget. So all of these are on YouTube. So are all of my live stream podcasts with special guests. So are all of our live improv comedy. And so are a few other things like some of my conference sessions, which might be good for Ulrika. I have my Dev and UX 1 hour version there, which has some of the things that I was saying, not all of them. And also, Ulrika, I do a 1-day workshop version where I go into people's companies and I do private training where I help get everybody on the same page about what the heck is UX, why are these people specialists, why can't we just give it to a business analyst or a QA person, or how do we work them into agile and how can they truly be lean, because the lean UX book is garbage and not true at all, in my opinion. Now I'm not traveling right now, but I can certainly do this remotely. I do lots of training remotely, and my internet's been upgraded, so I'm ready for action. Oh, my hair is puffy and silly. When were you guys going to tell me that? I'm not even looking. Not even looking. Low vanity, low ego. So if you have any last questions, please do let me know. Udit, if you're still with me, please send me a private message. I'm worried that you have a fever. I will send you a private message. And let's see, any other anonymous questions? No. Side note, I've just placed an order for the special library edition of my book. The difference is it is a hardcover, and the internal printing is all color, which it looks really nice. I will be selling these. If anybody's interested in one, I will be signing them as well. So let me know. Get in touch if you would like a hardcover one. I'll be shipping them from here in Italy, because it doesn't look like I'm going to be in America anytime soon, since everyone wants Italy to stay in Italy right now. So I'm just going to hang out here and enjoy my home life. So if you're interested in a hardcover book, let me know. If you want a not hardcover book, you can grab it off Amazon. You can catch it at Delta CX on Amazon, both the Kindle version and the paperback, which is cheaper. Igor, you are welcome. Thank you for joining. Thanks to everybody who joined. Ulrika, so good to see you again. And for everybody else who stopped by, I'll be doing this every Tuesday, roughly this time, and I hope to see you all next week. Meanwhile, join us tomorrow for UX speed dating, and Thursday for another live podcast where we'll have 2 special guests to talk about the science of UX and where things go bad when we stop treating it so scientifically. So I'm going to wind down this live live stream and maybe just go to bed, have a cup of tea. That goes for you too, Udit. Cup of tea, Osmania biscuits, go to bed. Oh no, it's Udit. Udit has a question. Udit, you're so late. I'm trying to wind down. You said, do you think UX research reports should include quantitative data? Because sometimes I've seen stakeholders don't care about qualitative data. I will answer this quickly because it's too good a question. But Udit, you can't do this to me when I'm saying goodbye. How do we explain our insight through qualitative data? Okay, so as my book says, very often we find that stakeholders don't care about qualitative information. They don't care about the customer's experience. Honestly, in many ways, they don't have empathy, and we can't create empathy. And for those people, we're going to need numbers. But what you can do to bring some of that qualitative data into the report is, in addition to whatever numbers and metrics you can show, use quotes from people, see if you can use video clips of them, make it more human, because part of the problem with metrics is sometimes it removes the humanity. 77% of people did this. We don't see them. We don't feel them. And again, maybe stakeholders don't totally care. But I would say match up some of your quantitative data with quotes or video clips from people. So if you're saying 26% of people struggled with this, 26% of people couldn't figure out where to pay their bill, then drop in 2 quotes. I spent 2 minutes searching the site and still wasn't sure how to pay my bill. I tried to pay my bill, but you wouldn't take my credit card. So you can always throw these things that are qualitative in with some of the other quantitative things. So I would say UX research should never be all quant, and it probably can't be all qual, but I would say most of my reports are mostly qualitative. Because to me, that's what I was looking for. I'm less concerned about what % of people did this or that, and I'm more concerned about what their experience was and how I can honestly represent it. So another question to ask another time when I'm not winding down. Udit, great question, and please contact me privately. I want to hear if you're okay. But I would say try to include some tidbits. Look up Atomic Research. They might have some good ideas. There's a guy who wrote a book about that, and I've just read a couple of articles about it, and that might be a good way to bring in some nuggets, as they call it. So try that. And with that, I'm going to wind down and have another cup of tea. So thanks again to everybody who joined. Thanks to everybody in LinkedIn and YouTube. And again, please subscribe on YouTube. It just is a better interface for this, unfortunately. But I like LinkedIn Live and I like to broadcast to it, but I don't think it necessarily tells you when I'm live, and that's a bad quality. I need everyone to know when I'm live. So thanks again to everybody. Be well, stay safe, and I will catch you all very soon.